One of the biggest rematches in recent memory for the heavyweight division will go down on December 7th in Saudi Arabia between Andy Ruiz Jr. and Anthony Joshua for 3 of the 4 major heavyweight titles. It's a classic case of repeat or revenge, with Ruiz Jr. looking to retain the belts that he won against the odds on June 1st, and Joshua looking to redeem himself following what was an unexpected loss. In this video, I'll cover 10 things to watch for in this highly anticipated rematch. With that in mind, buckle up. Let's go. Number 1. The task for Andy Ruiz Jr. in the rematch largely remains the same as the first fight. He, as the smaller man, needs to overcome an 8-inch reach disadvantage to get to the inside to get his best work away and let those fast hands fly. On June 1st, even before the multiple knockdowns in round 3, Ruiz was having success on this front, often stepping right in with little resistance to land jabs and other combinations. But he is likely to face stiffer resistance the second time around, as his opponent is likely to opt to box from the outside rather than at mid-range. But closing the distance is going to be key, as Ruiz Jr. is unlikely to win the fight if he's kept on the outside on the end of Joshua's jab. Number 2. Once Andy Ruiz Jr. manages to close the distance, he needs to go back to what worked well in the first fight, which is not only sharp hooks and combinations, but also effective body punching. Often forgotten is Ruiz Jr. landed several telling body shots towards the end of the first fight, particularly in round 6, and it really did visibly take the stuffing out of Anthony Joshua before the final onslaught from Ruiz in round 7. In the rematch, Anthony Joshua is likely to be wary for another so-called punch from the gods, and is likely to be more defensively responsible where it comes to keeping his hands up. So this will likely present openings to Joshua's body, and it worked well in the first fight, and if Ruiz Jr. can land some meaningful body work again, it could be a big key to wearing down Joshua, and may present other opportunities for headshots if Joshua starts to bring his guard down to protect the body. Number 3. Andy Ruiz Jr.'s all-around durability will be another key to success in the rematch. First time around, not only was Andy Ruiz Jr. able to pick himself off the canvas and keep coming, but he took several other heavy shots throughout the fight, shots that would have seriously hurt or knocked out other fighters. And given there is likely to be more resistance as Ruiz looks to close the distance, he may well be forced to eat jabs, straight right hands on the way in, just to get his own work away. It just may be the trade-off that he has to accept in the rematch if Joshua fights from range, which is likely. So expect Ruiz's chin to be tested time and time again. It is a test he has passed previously, so it could well hold up again. Number 4. Much has been made of Andy Ruiz Jr.'s weight into the lead up to the second fight, with speculation he'll weigh drastically less than the 268 pounds he weighed heading into the first fight. Some of that speculation has been fueled by Ruiz Jr. himself, who has stated he'd be unbeatable at 245 pounds, which would be a career low weight for him if he could achieve it. Ruiz has been dropping down in weight since the rematch press conferences were held in September, but he clearly was well above his June fight weight when he entered training camp. So maybe some of this talk of weight loss is mind games. Maybe he does intend to come in lighter to some extent to anticipate a different game plan from Joshua, and therefore being 10 or 15 pounds lighter than the first fight could benefit his stamina, his game plan. Many have also been arguing that he should stay at 268 pounds or thereabouts, so as not to mess with a winning formula. But regardless of the end result on the scale, Ruiz will need to come ready to go 12 rounds and bring his unique style of pressure, which had Joshua backpedaling at times and looking somewhat uncomfortable. Number 5. As the unified champion, there's no escaping the spotlight for the rematch. First time around, Ruiz Jr. was brought in as a late replacement opponent and largely skirted under the radar in the build-up, with the vast bulk of attention and media responsibilities and obligations falling to the then champion Joshua. Ruiz Jr.'s life has changed markedly since he scored one of the biggest upsets in heavyweight boxing history. he now carries the weight of expectation of a new legion of fans, as well as having to try prove his shock win wasn't just an anomaly. Coupled with all this has come millions of dollars, fame, distraction, and everybody wants a piece of the champ. How has Andy Ruiz Jr. coped with this transition to this new reality? And has it, or will it, affect him in the lead up to the rematch? It is an open question. From all indications, Ruiz is working hard in camp to repeat what he did on June 1st, and I'm sure his trainer Manny Robles is working hard to ensure that Ruiz Jr. stays grounded and will be ready for December 7th in Saudi Arabia.
Number 6.
In the wake of Anthony Joshua losing in June, much has been said about how the first fight played out, with the third round being a pivotal talking point. Ruiz climbed off the canvas and landed what Joshua has described as a punch from the gods during a furious exchange, a punch he never really recovered from. Expect Anthony Joshua in the rematch to be more poised and patient. If Joshua hurts Ruiz or drops him again, he won't come rushing in. He'll try to break him down bit by bit, listening to his corner, listening to his trainer Rob McCracken, trying to minimize the risk to himself in the process. While Joshua has admitted previously he loves to get into a good fight, a good tear-up, he needs to fight smart the second time around to get his belts back.
Number 7.
As part of Anthony Joshua's strategy, expect to see him working more from distance when he can, as opposed to his preferred mid-range. Joshua is the taller man. He's got the 8-inch reach advantage, so he needs to maximize his natural advantages. And he needs to start with the jab. Not just an occasional jab, but one with some authority behind it. Ruiz is going to be trying to walk Joshua down with his pressure, and the jab will be a key part to trying to keep Ruiz honest and prevent him from getting to the inside. The jab could be a very effective weapon and help him win a lot of rounds. It is worth noting that there were many occasions in that first fight, even before the knockdowns, where Ruiz was able to make his way to the inside without much or any resistance, and the jab was used sporadically, so this will need to change in the rematch, otherwise it could be a tough night.
Number 8.
Anthony Joshua is a showman. He likes closing fights with knockouts, he likes having flair in his fights and the way that he fights and performs. But he might have to suppress some of those urges in the rematch. Fight more like a Vladimir Klitschko. Keep it long, throw the 1-2, play it safe, dial back on the number of hooks that he throws. Winning is winning after all. While a safe and dull performance would attract some criticism, getting the belts back is all that matters in the end. A template for how Anthony Joshua could look to fight Ruiz Jr. is a title fight between Lennox Lewis and David Tua from 2000. Lewis completely blunted Tua's attacks by the effective use of his jab, and he maximized his reach advantage. Tua found it hard to get into the fight and land much of note. It wasn't one of the greatest fights in the world by any stretch, but safety first won the day, and there are numerous other examples that exist of good big men beating smaller fighters through a safety first approach. The open question is, can Joshua stick to a disciplined game plan like that while a skilled pressure fighter is coming at him, forcing him to move, forcing him to circle the ring, backpedal, something that Joshua hasn't necessarily looked especially good at doing in the past.
Number 9.
The majority of training camp earlier this year for Anthony Joshua was spent preparing for another opponent, Jarrell Miller. So the second time around, both Joshua and Ruiz will get a full 3 months to prepare. They will both benefit from that. For Joshua, who has very rigorous and regimented camps, he will have every opportunity to try rectify the mistakes that he made in June. Ultimately, whether he can, we will only know on fight night, but he has been preparing diligently for Ruiz and bringing in similar style fighters to replicate his traits. One such sparring partner is heavyweight prospect Timothy Moten. I'm sure Joshua fans will also be hoping that the former champ has been working on defending against the left hook, given that it is a punch that's troubled Joshua over his career, including when Ruiz Jr. landed that so-called punch from the gods.
Number 10.
An open question heading into the rematch is what, if anything, did the first fight take from Anthony Joshua, who is now on the wrong end of one of the biggest boxing upsets of all time? What was meant to be a glittering first fight in America turned into an American nightmare for all the world to see. In part, that's made the rematch far bigger than the first fight, but has Joshua been able to shake off the disappointment of the loss? In August, he spoke of needing to get his passion back, which you can take a number of ways, but he has to be fully dialed in not only physically, but also mentally for this rematch. This will be the biggest moment of either fighter's career to date. Let's hope it's a good fight on December 7th.